Okay, here we go then. The last race of the day, it's all to play for. Race 2, it all comes down to the next 14 laps. And away they go. Now, and there's Darren spinning out as well. Darren, there's contact there, push Kieran wide. Oh, but he's gone off. What's going on? Shane's also there in the BMW. Oh, nearly loses it. Kieran's going to have to slow down. No, he's gone too much. It's Josh here, and he is leading. This is fantastic for Josh. Oh, a bit of a luck tap. And Josh, oh my God, who's going to take it? I think it's Darren. I think it's going to be Rob. Rob gets it. He's actually on the grass. This isn't good for Tom. And he's made the move. Look at that. Through Eau Rouge. Oh, that's Mike. Mike's gone off. Oh, Craig sideways. Big time. Is it going to be enough? No, Sam takes it and takes the title ahead of Tom. Hello and welcome to the FeckWrest Online Touring Car Championship. My name is Tom and as always I will be your commentator. We are currently looking at Craig Kellett, who is our current championship leader. So let's take a little look at the circuit itself and find out who has entered into round 7 of the championship. The Goodwood circuit here in Britain is a 2.3 mile circuit, very short and very fast with a tight chicane towards the end. In the entry list then, it's a 13 car grid with the returnees of Gary Black and Chris Hensby, so really good to see them back. Unfortunately Kieran is unable to make it, so K-Tech Racing will be a car short there. In the championship standings then, Craig Kellett is still leading with 302, ahead of Darren with 238. In third is Mark with 200 points. Only 2 points behind him is Josh in fourth with 198. Mike 2 points behind Josh with 196. Tom isn't too far behind with 191. Sam and Kieran are very close together by a point with 153 with Sam in 7th, 152 to Kieran in 8th. 9th is Harry with 133, Rob still in 10th with 124, Stephen is 11th, 106, Joe is 12th with 80, Gary is 13th with 42, and obviously James and Chris are 14th to 15th with 27 and 15. In the teams, Elliott are still quite a way ahead with 506, Parker 455 and K-Tech 424. And then in the independents, Mark is leading with 279, Mike second with 267, Josh 258, not too far behind in third, Harry is fourth with 216, Stephen is fifth with 153, Joe sixth with 115, Gary, James and Chris still haven't scored for the last few rounds with 70, 34 and 29, but Gary and Chris will hopefully score some points today to increase those. The qualifying was quite interesting, and let's have a little look at the grid. Craig Kellett is back on pole for Elliott Racing Nissan GTR in the first race here at Goodwood. Next to him is Darren Parker in the first of the Team Parker Racing Renault Megans. Mike Kuipers is on row 2 with his Nissan GTR next to Sam Parker, the second of the Team Parker Racing Renault Megans. Mark Nichol in his Renault Megane is on row 3 with Harry Cook in the Nissan GTR. The two Subarus of Stephen Heath in the independents and the K-Tech Racing Subaru of Tom Foster at row 3. Row 4 is the Lexus RCF of Gary Black and Rob Hellett in the Nissan GTR for Elliott Racing. Row 6 we've got Josh Hardy in the Renault Megane and Joe Burrows in his Mazda Atenza, and at the back row of the grid here is Chris Hensby in his BMW M4. Here we go then, here at the Goodwood circuit where they normally host the historical rounds. Craig is on the front row of the grid and away they go. It's a good start for the two Nissans as expected, and the first corner half expecting it to be a bit messy. That's Mike going off there and Harry does as well, so Mike is back on. Tom's gone ahead with Mark and Stephen. A little bit messy around the first corners, but settle down into the next few as Mark goes a little bit wide. He's on the grass, so Mark Nicol are already hitting the grass, and that's something that could easily slow everyone down here. And there's Chris already up to 10th. That's not a bad start for him. Gary's just getting back used to that's Sam. So Sam off on the grass. Not a good start for Sam, unfortunately. So Craig is leading, Darren's second, Stephen is third, Tom is fourth, and Mike is fifth as they go through the tight chicane here. As you can see, get that wrong, you'll hit the barriers, and that can really slow you down. So we have a replay here of Sam. So this is where Sam's obviously lost it. Oh, it's just caught the grass. Oh, is it the wall as well? Yeah, it's pushed him all the way down to the back of the grid. On board with Sam, and it's just Mark's caught the grass as well, but it might have thrown him why he's gone a little bit wide. That's a shame for Sam. 17 laps around this short circuit, very similar to Thruxton, a little bit smaller, and so the runoff here is very grassy, and as soon as you hit that grass it'll slow you down quite a bit. There's Harry going a little bit wide there. Joe down in 9th, Gary Black in 10th. Stuffer is 11th, Chris Hensby, and Rob, Sam at the back. On board with Darren. Of course, Darren still fighting to keep up with Craig for the title. If he could just get a few points, it would be great from here, but he needs to really start taking chunks out of Craig's lead now to really have a chance. But don't forget, the final round will be a double points, so it could go down to the wire if Craig is not too far ahead and has a bad round at Brands. This is good for Heafy in third and for Tom in fourth. The two Subarus represented well here so far. Mike in fifth, and sixth is Mark. So at the moment Independent's looking fairly close. Josh isn't too far behind Harry here. And as you can see, the cars are on the edge, and that is Mark Nicol slowing down. So Mark has, I think, had a small off there. Oh, and that's Harry's gone off. So Harry is, there he is, Harry is in the gravel. So Harry's had an off. That was after basically Mark had recovered from his spin, and I think they just got tangled up from there onwards. So Harry spun out into the gravel, so that's a shame for Harry. We can have a look at the replay, find out what happened, and have a bit of a closer look at that incident there. So let's watch Harry here. As we see there is Mark, who's losing control of his Renault, gets back onto the track. So Harry has got a lot more speed than Mark, tries to go wide, and there's contact there, and look, they spins out into the gravel and nearly into the wall. Lucky not to go hard into it, really. On board with Harry again, as you can see, there's Mark, and he's just recovered from that spin. And Harry just wants to see if he can overtake. It's just not worked out. Look. So looking back now, we are four-way car fight here into the first few corners, and that's Mark off again. So Mark is struggling to keep that car on the circuit at the moment. Mark has gone from being up in the top 5 for qualifying and for the first few corners, now down to 10th. Early days, and he could recover from this, but at the moment it's Not a good start for the current Independence leader. Could hurt him if he's not careful. So Sam's leading this pack after having a bit of an off. He's just coming up to Gary now. So the Lexus running quite well at the moment, although Gary has gone slightly off as they come through the chicane. And on to laps 5. Further up, here's Mike, who's behind Tom, who's behind Stephen, and then obviously the two protagonists in the current season fighting it out at the front. It's pretty much been Darren and Craig all throughout the season so far, with the Independence battle raging on, usually races 2 and 3. Tom going off on the dirt slightly there, but still very close here. So Darren is now leading, Craig falling behind, but still looking strong here. And the interesting thing about this here, as Stephen has hit the, unfortunately, he's hit the chicane, so Stephen's going to slow down quite a bit, and that's allowed Mike also to get past, although he's had to slot back in. It's not quite enough. Heafy was looking strong, just hit the chicane. It's easily done, and it really does slow you down, pushes you out wide onto that grass. Look how fast the cars go around these corners, and they are on edge, on the limit. Now, Tom is keeping up with Craig here. Tom nearly running on the grass again. He did that on the previous lap. He's got to be careful not to spin the car out, because that's all it takes is to catch a wheel in the wrong way and the car is facing the wrong direction. Back through that chicane again. Mike and Stephen having a good fight here. Let's go on board with Mike as he's on the outside here. Oh, he's gone off. Tom's got off slightly as well, so could be following the line there. Sam's still down in 6th, and he's got ahead of Gary. He's got a bit of a gap now as well, so Gary's still settled down into 7th, which isn't too bad. Rob is just behind Mark then, and Joe here is just behind Harry. Harry looking a little bit glitchy and could be having some issues. Josh down in 12th at the moment, and most probably on the hard tyres, but could he get some more points? And Joe has now gone ahead of Harry. This battle here seems to be looking to be pretty interesting if they bunch up a bit, with Rob, Mark and Gary all looking fairly close there. Sam's on his own. Heafy's dropped off from this pack here now. Then Mike looking to get past Tom. Now these two had a good fight back on the last race of Catalonia, so it's not like they're not used to being side by side. And Tom going a little bit wide, but still looking fairly comfortable in that Subaru in 3rd. But Mike has got a good run here, and as they come down side by side into the next corner, Mike has got the advantage, and he's got it done quite well, although he's gone across the grass, so into the next chicane, and Mike's got the position. Tom goes back past though, because Mike runs off wide. So again, as I said, it's very easy to run off wide hit the barrier and even run off wide into the grass of that chicane, and that's shown what a difference it makes if you get it right to if you get it slightly wrong. On to lap 9 of 17. And on board with Mark Nichol, who is behind Rob here. And this fight is for 7th, 8th and 9th. This is the biggest grid we've seen so far this year, this season, and of course we've had a return of Gary Black in his Lexus, and it's been rumoured that Gary's been testing a fair bit to see if he can tighten up the Lexus and get it down to a better setup, and at the moment looking like it's running a little bit better. As I said before, it's the business end of the season where there's already talks increasing about the cars for next season, what the car regulations will be, and new teams, old teams, who's in, who's out, and how the grid will look for next season will start to become a little bit more clearer in the next coming months. That's Chris Hensby, unfortunately, who is being lapped, who's having a bit of a tough time around here. Harry and Josh still having a fight here. They seem to be have been having a bit of a battle here for a little bit over the last few laps. Harry runs wide on the grass because he's got to slow down, and if he didn't, he'd just end up carrying on into the barriers, really. I think Harry would be disappointed down in 11th, but... And there's Chris struggling on the grass. So our leaders still then. This is Craig on the back of Darren. Darren seems to have got a bit of a gap here and looking comfortable. Tom and Mike still fighting it out for 3rd and 4th. Tom desperately wants a podium after not really gaining too many over the last few rounds. He had a really decent one at Catalonia, wanted a win, but looking for another podium here at Goodwood. Stephen has got part of the track to himself here, so they're saying that he's run wide and he's come back on, not done too much damage. Sam could catch him here. Sam is running quite fast at the moment and doing really well. It's just a shame that he had a very poor start. It must have been some kind of incident that had happened. So Gary and Rob. Oh, there's Rob, who's hit the wall there, so that's allowed Gary to get up very, very close to Rob now. They are coming side by side down into the first corner, and it's the game of the late breakers to see who can go in the quickest. It's a very, very strange corner, that turn one. Easy, very, very easy to run wide and to catch the grass and the runoff. It's a very odd mixture of grass and concrete there as well, with no gravel. And this is where, again, people will run wide into the grass. If you do that, you could end up running in a field, and then it takes forever to get back onto the circuit. Further down is Mark, Harry and Josh still fighting. So Harry's got back ahead of Josh. Joe down in 12th, and Chris obviously is a lap behind. So Darren's still leading, Craig is second, Tom and Mike still fighting here, and they have just separated slightly. Mike has got a slight better advantage. But this is going to help Mike in the points with a third place finish if he stays there, after seeing both Josh and Mark struggling slightly further down the pack. But this is early days, it's only race 1. They could come alive more in races 2 and 3, and anything can happen. So Gary still struggling to get past Rob here for 7th. But it's a good battle nonetheless. So Darren is leading and running quite comfortably still. Craig in 2nd. This isn't going to be too bad for Craig if he does finish 2nd, although saying that, he's run wide. So Craig off the circuit. This is going to allow Darren to get back further up ahead slightly again. So Craig struggling to catch up with Darren. Mike is not too far behind now, with Tom still on the back of Mike. So Mike is getting ahead, but not going off too much into the distance. So I'm just waiting and hoping that Mike makes a mistake. As you can see how fast these cars run, and the way Tom bumping over the curbs, and you can see what it does for tyres around this circuit. The speed you're doing around those fast corners. Stephen still in 5th, Sam still in 6th, and then there's a big gap between Gary and Rob here, and Sam in 6th, so it's all to play for here. This is quite an interesting battle, and of course Mark is just a little bit further away, and there is Rob going wide, so he hits the grass, he recovers from it, so quite lucky not to get into a spin, but that's allowed Gary now to have a much better run into the next corner, although Rob's done well to defend it. As you can see, Mark now not too far behind, so it could end up a 3-way, and Mark could pick up the pieces if these two have a coming together. Further down now, Harry's slightly out of the question, and Joe is back into the frame for the fight with Josh now. Joe runs wide into the chicane they go. So a fairly good exit for both of them, and in actual fact Joe's got quite close to the back of Josh here. And notice the different speeds into that first turn. Joe seems to just enter it just a bit quicker. Josh is a little bit more hesitant. He's probably after having a bit of a spin or catching the grass, especially with the rear wheel drive. He's got to be a little bit more careful. The last thing he wants to do is catch the grass and spin that Renault out, because it's so easy to do it, especially with the rear wheel drive. Craig just seems a little bit closer to Darren here, and they're on the final lap though, but Darren runs wide. So the final lap, Darren was in the lead and he's run wide, so, and in actual fact is struggling to get back in control of that Renault, and there goes Mike. So Mike is up to 2nd, Darren is down to 3rd. Can Tom get past? I don't think it's going to be, well, there's a mad change of events on the last laps here. We're expecting to watch Darren Parker take the win, but unfortunately, again, it's going to be Craig Kellett takes the win in the Nissan GTR. Still well earned and deserved, as he was on the back of Darren for the whole race. Mike comes away in second. Darren takes the third after spinning on the last corners of the last lap. Tom is fourth. Sam gets ahead of Stephen. I did say he was catching him up, so Sam's going to take fifth. Heafy will take sixth. And this fight is still raging on between Rob and Gary. And it's going to go right into the last few corners, it looks. Rob's got it at the moment. And I think Rob keeps it, so Rob's going to take seventh in the second of the Ellett Nissans. Gary takes eighth. Mark's going to take ninth and was unable to catch up to that small pack there. And then Josh and Joe just coming around the last few corners here. Joe wasn't quite able to take the fight to Josh in the last few laps there. But there's Josh spinning across the finish straight, and Joe. So let's watch Darren as we see he just went. Look, he's just gone wide. It's just, was it the pressure of Craig? It's just really unfortunate. Darren will be devastated after that, and there's Mike who goes past and takes second as well. On board with Darren. Yeah, look there, it's just gone, it's just a bit too quick into the corner, it's gone wide. It's just too late once it hits the grass. And Craig takes the win then for the first race at Goodwood. Michael takes second, Darren was third after unfortunately going wide in the last few bends there. Tom takes fourth ahead of Sam in fifth. Stephen takes sixth, Rob takes seventh, Gary is in eighth, Mark in ninth, Josh in 10th, 11th was Joe, Chris was 12th, and unfortunately Harry doesn't finish after having some technical issues. So what this means then for the title, Craig is still leading with 324, Darren is second with 253, Mike jumps up to third now with 213, Josh is just behind Mark, Mark is on 207, Josh is on 204. Tom is also in 204, so he's joint with Josh now in 6th. Sam is 7th with 164. Kieran obviously still hasn't scored and won't score today, still 152. Harry is on 133, still after not scoring, with Rob now. So Rob is joint with Harry, so both on 133. Stephen is in 11th still with 116. Joe is 12th with 85. Gary goes up to 51, still in 13th. James on 27th, and Chris now on 19th in 15th place. In the teams, Elliot's on 537, still well in the lead. Parker still second with 485, and K-Tech still in third with 439. In the independents, Mark is still leading with 292, but Mike is only 5 points behind now with 287. Josh is third with 269, Harry is fourth with 216 after not scoring. Stephen fifth with 170, Joe's sixth with 125, Gary's 85 in seventh. Chris is now actually ahead of James by 4 points in the independents with 38 to 34.